welcome to this screencast that will take the place of our class tomorrow, Thursday, October the 23rd. Again, I apologize for not being able to be in class today, but I hope that you have had a good Thursday and that you are going to understand the material that we are covering here in this screencast. Hopefully it will not be too terribly difficult. What I will do in this screencast is that I will go over some material out of Chapter 4, Section 3. You took some notes on it and you took a quiz on it. And I'm going to go over and highlight some of the things that you took notes on, expand a little bit on those notes, and then add a little bit of material that was not in the textbook so that you can get a complete picture of the Persian Empire at this point. We will start with Cyrus the Great. And we saw last time that Cyrus the Great, the first territory that he captured was Lydia. And after a while, he starts to capture more and more territory. He's a very good, very successful military ruler. So he's a very good military commander, and he leads his troops and armies to some great victories. And one of the greatest victories was when he conquered the city of Babylon in 540 BCE. And this is, of course, as you might remember, the very famous event when he conquered Babylon, which was one of the cities that was controlled by the Chaldeans. When he conquered Babylon, he discovered that all these Hebrews, all these Jews were held prisoners or held captive in the city. So, of course, as you know by now, he freed the Jews, sent them back to Jerusalem, which again was a very honorable thing to do and a very kind thing to do. So he freed the Jews after taking the city. So Cyrus the Great, again, one of the greatest rulers that we have back in ancient history. And he ruled with great authority and with kindness and understanding and empathy all the way until 530. So he passed away in 530. So he dies in 530 BCE. He's replaced by his son Cambyses. And Cambyses is kind of an unfortunate figure in history. He was not a bad ruler at all. He was replaced by Cambyses. And Cambyses was not a bad ruler at all, but just because of the fact that Cyrus was such a great ruler, and the ruler that came after Cambyses, Darius, was also an absolutely outstanding ruler. Cambyses has been kind of forgotten in history. He didn't rule for very long. He ruled for 9 years, and he didn't really accomplish a whole lot compared to the ruler that ruled before him and the ruler that ruled after him. But still, we should keep in mind that he was a good, capable ruler that continued the strong rule of Cyrus. So if we then look at the next most important person here in Persian history, that is Darius. Darius ruled from 521 to 486 BCE. So for a very long period of time, he ruled for 35 years, and he had an enormous impact on Persia. And by that I mean that he did a lot of different things that really affected Persian society and really improved Persian society. Cyrus the Great was a fantastic ruler, but to some extent Darius is even more important because he consolidated all the things that Cyrus had done, and he improved on a lot of the things that Cyrus had done as well. So Darius is really the one that rules during the time period that Persia is the strongest. This is kind of the high point of Persian rule here. So what did Darius do? Well, again, you should have a pretty good idea of this from your notes, and I'll just quickly go over some of the highlights here. So Darius, his accomplishments here, he created the royal road, created a royal road which greatly improved communications. Also, we should note that on this royal road he built these, basically we can call them relay stations, so that a messenger did no longer have to run, let's say 500 miles in order to deliver a message. Instead, that messenger ran 10 miles, got to one of these stations, handed off the message to a new runner that would go another 10 miles, hand it off to the next guy, etc., etc. So communications were much improved here. Improved communications. That's one thing that he did. He also divided the country up into 20 provinces, and your textbook is a little confusing on this. These provinces were actually called satraps. Satraps that were run by satraps. So again, that's a little confusing. So again, make sure we understand that the provinces were called satraps and they were run by satraps. I know that's a little bit strange and a little bit different from what we have today, but they had the same title back then. So 20 satraps run by satraps. So they were run by satraps as well. This again really improved the communication between the central government in the capital and the areas out in the countryside. So again, did a lot to strengthen the government. The other thing that he really that really helped to improve Persia was that he created a standing army. And the standing army had been there before, but he created a new type of standing army where he drew on each of the provinces in Persia, because a lot of the people that lived in Persia really did not know one another. They had been conquered by the Persians. That was basically all they had in common, and now they were part of the Persian Empire. So a lot of these people didn't consider themselves Persian and didn't have any loyalty to the Persian state. But by creating the standing army where all these people had to fight together, Darius created a lot of unity, because he brought different population groups together. They had to train together, they had to live together, they had to fight together, and that, as you can perhaps understand, created a lot of unity here. So he created a lot of unity, which really helped him. So Darius rules to 486, excuse me, and after Darius's death, things start to kind of go downhill for the Persians. So we have a decline after Darius's death, and that's because of several different reasons. So we look at the decline here. For one, we have a series of rulers that are quite frankly not very good. They're not nearly as good as Cyrus or Darius or even Cambyses. They're just not very good. So we had poor rulers. They mostly cared about themselves. They didn't care about the people too much. They didn't care about the government. And the other thing that we have here is that the Persian rulers started to have basically too many sons. And we talked about this before a little bit in this class. And when you have too many sons, if you have 4 or 5, 6 sons, a lot of times those sons will start to fight for the right to be the next ruler, and that often creates a lot of instability. And what you should understand here is that we're not talking about 4 or 5 sons. These Persian rulers, some of them had 120, 130, 140 sons, obviously not by the same woman, but so that they would have, let's say, 100 wives, and each wife would have a son. So it created basically a chaotic situation where all these people were fighting for power, which led to a great deal of instability. So Persia is still around for quite a while, but again, it's on the decline here after Darius's death. So the last thing we'll take a quick look at here is the Persian religion. And Persia in the beginning was polytheistic. was polytheistic, and that changed with the arrival of Zoroaster and his religion, Zoroastrianism. And Zoroastrianism, again, your book is a little bit confusing. I'm not a huge fan of how the book explains this. Zoroastrianism is a monotheistic religion. And your book states that, but then the book goes on to talk about several different gods, which again makes it a little bit confusing. The thing with Zoroastrianism is that they had one god, and his name was Ahura Mazda. And they had a lot of different spirits that were around Ahura Mazda, that sometimes fought with Ahura Mazda, and these spirits were not gods, they were just simply spirits. And Ahura Mazda was in an eternal battle with an evil spirit called Ahriman. So he fought Ahriman, and here's where Zoroastrianism got kind of clever here, because you, as an individual, had an actual role to play in this battle. The way that Zoroastrianism taught people was that if you did a good deed, if you did a nice thing, Ahura Mazda would get stronger and he would gain the upper hand in the fight against Ahriman. If you did something bad, if you did something that had a bad effect on people or on society, Ahriman would get stronger and he would gain the upper hand. And Zoroastrianism taught that if Ahriman got too strong, he would defeat Ahura Mazda and destroy the world. So as you can see here, this is a great incentive for you as a human to do good things, because if you do not do good things, Ahriman will get stronger, eventually he will destroy the world and he will destroy you as well. So this is a great incentive to do good. So that's basically what I wanted to talk about in this screencast. Again, you should have taken the quiz by now. You've hopefully understood everything in this screencast. If you have any questions, do let me know. And you have a short little primary source assignment to complete as well during your A period class here. I wish you a great rest of your Thursday, and I will see you on Friday.